Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the iWorkinSport Education Virtual Expo. This is I hope you've been enjoying the event so far. We're getting towards the end of the first day of the event. So if you haven't had the chance to connect with every program yet, don't worry. They will be here for another 2 days. Tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Thursday from 6 p.m. to 11 at night. This is Central European summertime. Right. We've had great presentations so far. If you haven't watched them live, you can still watch them later. And now we're going to have a special one. Right. This is the first time that we have a keynote presentation at the Education Expo. And we're honored to have with us Thomas Junod. He's the head of the UEFA Academy. Right. And so having Thomas here with us as a keynote speaker is a remarkable addition to our program. UEFA not only invests in education with the organization of its own UEFA Academy, of which Thomas will talk about, but it also has hired a large number of sports masters graduates from various of the courses that are presenting here today. So it will be insightful also to learn from someone who understands the real value that a world-class sports organization gives to formal education and training. So let me invite Thomas in. It's a pleasure to have him with us. Hello, Thomas. Thank you for being here with us. How are you?
Hello, Joao. I'm fine. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you connect. I understand it's an international conference, an online conference, so I guess there are people from all over the world. So really, I mean, it's a great pleasure for me to share with you a few information about the UEFA Academy, but also this is the topic of the presentation about the importance of education in the sport industry. So thanks a lot, Joao. And what I would like,
I'll give you the floor, and I'll be on the background, and I'll bring your presentation up as well.
Fantastic. So you can bring the presentation up right now, actually. And what I want to do is to bring the attendees into the history of UEFA. So let's do it. And I'd like to go at the very beginning, actually, of the history of UEFA. It's in 1954. In 1954, this is the date of the creation of UEFA. And at the time, it was a decision taken by some European association to create UEFA during the FIFA World Cup in Basel, actually. But the first headquarters of UEFA was in the French Football Federation office, a very small bureau for UEFA, only one employee, and this is the gentleman you have on screen, is Henri Delaunay, is the first ever General Secretary of UEFA, and he was not even paid. It was a voluntary position. Unfortunately, Henri Delaunay fell sick just a few months after he took over his function, and UEFA had to appoint a second general secretary, who was actually his son, Pierre Delaunay, who took over from his father. And in 1956, he became the first paid, basically, worker of UEFA, the first paid employee of UEFA, because there was a proposal from the Spanish Football Federation at the time who said, well, there are too many tasks to be performed by someone who is volunteer. We need to have a full-time paid position. And the situation lasted a few years like this. And in the 1960, at the year 1960, UEFA, for various reasons, decided to move to Switzerland. And at the time, Pierre Delaunay said he would prefer to stay in Paris. So UEFA had to appoint another general secretary, the third general secretary, Mr. Hans Baumgartner, who started in Bern to work with 2 personal assistants. So there were an office of 3 persons in Bern. And this is where UEFA really started to develop. it was kind of a slow start at the beginning. UEFA had to change, however, different office in Bern to accommodate an increased number of employees. But it's only in the 90s where really, I mean, the staff of UEFA started to explode, and UEFA decided to move in a new building in a new region also of Switzerland. They found a land in the beautiful shore of the Lake Geneva in Nyon, and this is where UEFA is currently located. They moved there in 1995. This is when UEFA arrived in Nyon with 75 employees. And since this moment, really, this is really when the staff started to grow at a dramatic pace. You can see here the progression of the staff since 2000. When I started at UEFA at 2007, we were 250 employees, and now this number has more than doubled. Why so? Of course, because more money came into the system thanks to TV deal. Nowadays, we should speak about media deal. And this is the same for actually all kind of information. If you take all kind of sports organization of the importance of UEFA. If you take FIFA, for instance, this is a statistics just to be able to compare with the one of UEFA. I stopped in 2019 because for obvious reason, 2020 has been a very, very special year. But in 2019, if you take the annual report of FIFA, this was 947 staff. Even 2 weeks ago, there was some report saying that FIFA for the first time went over 1,000 staff. And I'm pretty sure, I didn't go to check the figures, but the evolution would be more or less the same for all sports organizations. Actually, FIFA doubled the number of employees just over the last 6 years, for instance. And I'm pretty sure it would be the same for the IOC, but also for North American leagues. Why so? Once again, because there is more money into the system. There is also more needs, new type of job also, which are created in the sports industry, which really became an industry, that we like this term or not. So, if you are working at HR of UEFA, for instance, and you need to recruit so many people, you know, normally at HR, there is this famous sentence, it's a make or buy decision. Do you want to train your own guys to take the new position or to bring new guys into the game? When you need to double the number of employees, you have no choice. You need to hire people. And this is why Joao was mentioning it into this introduction. We are working in close cooperation with all these programs which started to emerge, I would say, over the last 20 years. Some are a little bit older and a lot are actually quite new because there is a need for the sport industry to have quicker qualified employees. So we will see now with the COVID how it will affect our industry. There will be for sure an impact, but for the last few years, the sport industry was still growing into an amazing pace, I would say, if you compare with most of the traditional industry. This is true, I mentioned, for UEFA, this is true for FIFA, this is true for the IOC, this is true for the North American League. This is also true for our member association. I think, and this is why I didn't do it, I don't need to introduce what is UEFA, but basically it's the governing body of European football. We are an association of associations, so our members are the 55 national associations in Europe. Our mission, the mission of UEFA, is to protect, promote, and develop the game of football, but we are most famously known for the organization of our competition. The most famous, obviously, is the men's and the women's UEFA Champions League. We have also the men's Euro coming, a fantastic women's Euro coming next year. But the main goal of UEFA is to grow the sport in Europe, and we do it in partnership and in supporting our 55 member association. And these member associations, some are really big. If you take the English FA or the German Football Federation, it's big organization. You have also organizations like Gibraltar or Andorra FA, which are much smaller, but even in the small association, you have dozens of jobs actually there. And this has been an increase in the number of employees there. Why so? because UEFA is committed actually to develop football, whatever the territory and whatever the size of the territory. And the best way to demonstrate it is through the money we are actually redistributing to this member association through the hat-trick program. This slide shows you basically the financial redistribution of UEFA vis-a-vis its member association. So the clubs are not there. This is only UEFA vis-a-vis the 55 member association. And you can see here that for the years 2020-2024, for this cycle of hat-trick, each member association, whatever its size, will receive nearly 15 million euro from UEFA. This is an impressive figure, especially if you are a small national association. So the time for amateurism in the running of sport organization, at least in football and at least in UEFA stakeholders, is completely gone. You cannot give such an amount of money in a small amateur federation. This is not possible. So this is also the duty of UEFA to make sure all its member association, all the clubs playing a competition, are basically meeting some standards, some requirements, are operating at a professional level. So if you are UEFA or in the situation of UEFA, you have basically two options to do this. The first one, and we do it obviously, is to release regulation. It might be soft or hard regulation. So for instance, we have good governance principles that all member associations must follow. And we're actually checking that they are following this requirement. For the club, we have the well-known club licensing system, to which we added also all the regulation regarding the financial fair play for a dozen of years already. But I would say this is not enough because this is only regulation. So you need to have people who are able actually to follow the regulation, to put the regulation in place within the clubs and within the national association. So obviously, to do so, you need to have trained people. So as I told you, the new people we are earning or acquiring into the system are people coming from the different masters, not only, but notably from the different masters and schools who are taking part to the iWorkinSport conference. But also there was a need for UEFA to make sure these people could access to continuous education, that the people who were already in place could access also to continuous education. This is why for the last 15 years, UEFA has invested massively into the education of its member association. And we did it mostly through, at the time, here, this is why you can see kind of old pictures here. We did it mostly through seminars and conference. We had a very successful programs for approximately 10 years, which was called the KISS programs, for knowledge and information sharing scenario. The idea is very simple, is actually to bring people from the different member association in a conference room and to share information with them, but also to make sure that they can share information between them. This has been very successful. People were loving it, but we felt that this was not actually going enough. I think it was okay to run many workshops. The KISS workshops were actually delivered over 10 years, and there was approximately 10 workshops a year. So at the end, we delivered over 100 of such workshops. But we decided 10 years ago to take another angle for education. And we went from a conference-based approach to what I would call a program-based approach. So there was a shift in the mindset of UEFA, in the approach of UEFA for education. We started with two programs at the time, programs which is still existing today. Actually, the two programs are still existing today, is the CFM and the MESGO programs. You can see here different pictures of these programs. They are not very different, I would say, than pictures from the conference you have seen before. They might look a little bit modern, but however, I would say there are three main differences between a seminars-based approach and a program-based approach. And I'd like to go into this difference with you now. The first one is definitely the level of engagement we have in the classroom or in the room, because participants who go to a programs really need to apply seriously for these programs. They need to explain to UEFA why do they want to do these programs, why it is important for them, for their own individual career, but also why it is important for their organization. What is the impact of such a program that they expect for their organization? They know also that when they register to the programs, it's not going to be holidays. They know that the programs will be very intense, that they will be to add programs with assignments, with deadline, with a lot of these programs have exam at the end. They will need to add this workload to their private life and their professional life. But what you get in return, we don't do it to annoy the participants. We do it to engage them more. They will get really a certificate with a significant value. This is actually a really good advantage. And the participants are much more engaged than in a conference. They are coming with the right mindset to share their knowledge, to work on assignments, to challenge themselves. So this was the first things we gained. The second approach, we shifted a little bit when we went from, I would say, the seminars to the programs, is that we brought more people, more academic people in the room. Not that academics are always right, but they are good to provide us with, I would say, an helicopter view. So whatever the programs you will do in the future, I would recommend that you choose the programs involving a few academics. It's great to have fantastic professionals in the classrooms, but even UEFA, when we do our own programs, we bring academic in the classrooms because you need to bring good academics who know the business, who know the sport industry, who know football in our case, but they will bring us this critical view that sometimes we're missing when we are just, among us. So it's absolutely essential for the UEFA Academy to connect also with academics, with researchers who are studying basically what we are doing and who can also criticize us. This is actually very, very positive. And the third stuff we wanted to change in going from, I would say, a conference to real education programs is we wanted to recognize that education is actually a journey. So it's not enough to sit, for 2 days in as interesting as it can be in a conference room. We wanted to make sure that participants start with the programs. They evolve in their careers. They evolve within their organization. And then they can join, they can develop themselves in this organization, achieve another level, take another position, and then they will be ready to take another program. So we want with UEFA to be next to a federation and next to the staff of this federation wherever they are in their career and contribute for the development of their career. We can come back a little bit more to the presentation now, because what we realized we needed to do so was to actually completely assume the new approach, and we needed a brand for doing it. So this is why 2 years ago we decided to create the UEFA Academy. The UEFA Academy is actually nothing new. It's just a new name and a clarification. All education programs delivered by UEFA are now delivered through the UEFA Academy. What is the UEFA Academy? You can call this an internal business school. You can call it a corporate university of UEFA. This is basically the providers of all educational initiatives of UEFA. And like in any business schools, we have a catalog of activities. So I'm not going through all our different programs. I will even not mention any programs here. You have a website which is called uefaacademy.com, on which you can see the different programs. There is one page by program, so it's very well explained. What you can just see here is that we have management programs. When you start a career, when you are intermediate, when you are then maybe appointed one day director in your organization or general secretaries, and it's time for you to do the MESGO. We have programs for specialists. We have a streams also of initiatives for players, because what we want to do at UEFA is to encourage people who were successful on the pitch to have also a second career in the industry, not only as coach or as technicians, but also if they choose this path as administrators, or why not as leaders of their national association or leaders of their football clubs, for instance. We also, of course, have activities in knowledge sharing and research. These are the activities which actually feed the other programs of the Academy. And we also develop on-demand education. We have a few national associations who wants to have tailor-made programs. We are also working with actually external organizations who are interested in having programs delivered by the UEFA Academy. I would say here I need to do an important clarification. The programs of the UEFA Academy are only for people who are already working in the industry. Even the certificate in football management, we only accept candidates with a few years of experience into the sport industry. So in this sense, we are not competing with the vast majority of the programs who are currently here at the iWorkinSport conference. We need actually these programs. Joao was mentioning it in his introduction. We hire people doing these programs. So the programs of the UEFA Academy are really, I would say, further in the career of people. When they are already working in the sport industry, in the football industry, then they can register for the programs, and we're really happy to welcome these participants into our programs. When we created the UEFA Academy, we made 3 promises to our board, but also to our colleagues, and of course, to our member association and to our graduates and students. The first promise we did was to become more accessible. I would say more readable. I told you when we started with this new approach from education, it was approximately 10 years ago when we launched the first CFM, the first MESGO, there was only 2 programs. You've seen on our catalog, we have now 21 different initiatives. We added a lot of initiatives over the years. So we needed to clarify the offerings to, I mean, a little bit like this iWorkinSport conference, enable you to compare the different programs. We wanted to give the opportunity to our own candidates, our own students, the staff of our member association, the opportunity to see which programs was the most appropriate for them. So very basic stuff, but we created this catalog, we created an external website that presents basically our catalog. The second thing we wanted to do, and this is actually probably the biggest shift we did with the creation of the UEFA Academy, even if it started a little bit earlier, we wanted to be more inclusive. For some programs, we had started to welcome, and this was the idea, for instance, of the MESGO from the very beginning, to work with other people, not only people from the member association, but people from clubs, from players' union, from our direct stakeholders, the leagues, but also people from other sports. And what we realized is that it was actually enriching the discussion, enriching the conversation. So we wanted to open, let's say, or to apply this approach of being more inclusive, of involving new stakeholders as participants in the programs to every program of the UEFA Academy. This is why we are a little bit more visible than in the past, because we want also to give the opportunity to people, again, only working professionally in the sport industry, so people already having a job in the sport industry, to join some of the programs of the UEFA Academy. And the third change we did is we wanted to be more agile. You have currently, I told you, 21 different initiatives. We want to be able to add more. And actually, we have added more during this year, 3 new programs that we have launched in COVID time. We will also be able to remove some of the programs. So it should be, you know, the catalog should be a living document, because what we want to do is to make sure that all of the programs are clearly, I would say, connected to the needs of our member association, to the needs of UEFA, to the needs of the industry. Speaking about agility, I think COVID gave us a very good way to prove that we went agile, because from one day to the others, we had to move basically at the time our 18 programs from face-to-face delivery to online. I think all the colleagues here who are here with their programs know what I'm talking about. We had 18 programs to reinvent, because what we didn't want to do is to do just a simple copy-paste. We had basically to reinvent the curriculum and the content of the programs to be fully adapted online. And here you can see our studio, it developed a little bit more since the time, but still we had also to create from scratch basically a studio to be able to deliver online education. Here, I'd like just to present you with a few statistics of this COVID year. So you can also understand basically the scope and the reach of the UEFA Academy. We have basically delivered over the season 2020-2021 117 days of training. You can see this is more or less the same number as for the past year. So yes, COVID impacted our operation. It would be it would be stupid not to mention it, but we still managed to deliver basically all our programs and the same amount of training. So this is another way for me to show you that UEFA is really committed when speaking about education. We are really committed to deliver education to the sport industry and to the football industry in particular. This is also the number of new graduates who basically were successful in our programs, and not every people who start our programs get the diploma. Again, this is, I think, a specificity really of the UEFA approach. We don't want to be harsh for being harsh, but if you earn a certificate from the UEFA Academy, you need to deserve it. It's not enough just to sit in a classroom. You will need to pass an exam. You will need to give assignments. So congratulations to these nearly 300 new guys. And the last statistic is more for fun. This is a number of hours actually that participants spent online. So here it's another statistic. That's the number of graduates, total graduates of the UEFA Academy. And this is already an advice I give you. When you will decide which programs is good for you or which school is good for you, look at the alumni network. This is one of the key assets of any programs, is its alumni. So you can see the one of the UEFA Academy is very solid. This is only people working in the sport industry. Maybe a few have retired since, but basically the 99% are working in the sport industry. And we have graduates from over 130 nationalities, which also show you that the operation of the UEFA Academy is much more than just Europe. But you may wonder, why did I tell you everything? Where are you in this picture? Because I understand that a lot of you are actually starting their journey in the sport industry or are willing to join the sport industry. So be reassured, the last minutes of my presentation will be about you. And I would like to provide you with a few advice, a few recommendations to take the most of this conference and to make sure you can select the right programs. I'm not saying that you should follow my methodology, but this is at least the kind of criteria myself I would consider if basically I would be in your shoes and I would select new programs. So I've listed here a few criteria that I think you should consider, that I would consider if I would need to select a program. The first criteria is the content. The content, the format. The format is very important because nowadays with more and more programs, they have all different formats. Some are only face-to-face, some are very long, over 1 year, some are much shorter, some are hybrid, so a combination between class you can take online and face-to-face. Some are purely online. Here, I think you now have the chance to be able to choose what is most adapted to your own reality. Maybe you have private commitment, you maybe have a professional commitment. So have a look which format is the most adapted to you. Of course, the content is very important. A lot of these programs are looking more or less the same, but they have differences. So let's imagine you are very interested in joining the sport industry to work in marketing. Have a look, ask the questions to the people. How many hours? Who are the speakers in marketing, for instance? To make sure that you won't be disappointed. Yes, they have plenty different topics you are interested, but you're focusing in the marketing. So make sure the program you're going to select dedicate enough room to the topic of your interest. The same, more and more programs have no modules or even fully session, or there is even a dedicated program into entrepreneurship. So if you plan to launch your own company, for instance, again, have a look which programs exist, which dedicate enough space for entrepreneurship, for instance. Then, of course, look at who is speaking. I told you, for me, the ideal mix is a class where you have professors. And by the way, professors are people who have a PhD, who teach at university. So sometimes the word professor is a little bit abused. They are really talented people in the sport industry, but they are working professionals. That's why I use always the word speakers to speak about the speakers we have in our program. Some are professors, some are not. But have a look. Are they all professors? Are they all working professionals? Are they all consultants of the sport industry? Again, the best is probably to have a mix of them, but make sure they have a proper track record. Also, have a look which are the schools and their partners who are delivering the programs. Is the programs heavily connected with the sport industry? This is usually a good indication because it means that there are some sports organization recognizing the importance of these programs. Have a look also of the type of diploma which are delivered. Unfortunately, here again, the titles are not protected. So I can launch an MBA, I can launch a master, I can launch a diploma without necessarily that the program is fully accredited by the university. This is not necessarily a problem because you have amazing programs which are delivered by partner entities. And for instance, UEFA Academy is a private entity. But it might be a problem if you consider an academic career. So if you maybe in the future considering doing a PhD, have a look and make sure you select the programs which deliver credits or at least which is recognized by university, which will then enable you to, for instance, register for a PhD. This is very important. Have a look, obviously, also of the reputation of the programs. Have you heard about these programs already? How many people speak about these programs? And the best way to check the reputation of a program is to speak and to look at its alumni. And again, this is really a core invitation here to encourage you to discuss not only with the course organizer, but also with their alumni. What is the networks, basically, of the programs? And finally, a very important factor, which is sometimes a little bit underestimated, is the location of the programs. I would probably not choose the same programs if my dream would be to join the NBA or to join an American franchise, whatever the sport, or an organization based in Asia or in Europe. So the location of the program is important. Also think about the type of organization you want to join. Do you plan to join an international organization as UEFA, or basically a local organization or a national organization? So if you want to work for a football club in Spain or UEFA, I will not necessarily advise you to select the same programs. We work with a partner in France, for instance. If you want to work in a national federation, whatever the sport in France, or a national league, I would really recommend you to talk to this partner. Why? Because approximately 1/5 of any employees of this organization went through this partner. So they are really kind of owning the market. So again, have a look, depending on the type of organization you're interested in, which programs is probably the most appropriate for you. Final advice here is also to follow your heart, but in a rational way. So you can use this criteria, you can add other criteria, but at the end, education is something you offer to you. And you will need to be motivated. You will need to go the extra miles. Even if some speakers might be disappointing sometimes, maybe what they are telling is interesting. So you will do additional reading and so on. So make sure also you choose the programs for which you vibrate, which resonate into you, and that you know that you will do the extra miles to study beyond, I would say, the content, the pure content which is delivered by the programs. Okay, I'd like now to give you just a few additional advice about how I would use, if I were you, this conference and the days which will follow this conference. Talk to the programs organizers. You have an amazing opportunity to be able to benchmark the programs between each other. They are all excellent, but again, they are not all ticking necessarily the box you need. So you need to challenge the organizers about what the programs is for you, what's in it for you. You need to be convinced about it. Talk, I already mentioned, to the students and graduates who are here. Try to speak also to the students and graduates who are not here, because they might also, give you a different point of view. So discuss really with people who went through the programs. And if you know already the type of organization, or even if you are very sure about the kind of organization you want to join, talk also to people working there. Why not even to their HR people about what is their view on the programs you're considering, what programs they would recommend. This would be really important. So again, you have no choice of programs, and you are in the driving seats, but make sure you take an informed decision in talking to as many people as possible. I guess I don't need to convince you anymore that I'm really passionate about the topic, about the importance of education. But I would say doing an education program is not enough. It's definitely a must. You need to be well trained. You need to have done, I would say, programs, especially or ideally in sports management now, to join an organization, especially if you don't have many years of professional careers behind you. But I would say also considering acquiring practical experience. And in the sport industry, this is one of the only industry where you have no excuse not to have practical experience. It doesn't need to be paid job, but you can be a volunteer. You can be a volunteer for big events like the UEFA Euro, but think also about all the opportunities you have in your local community to basically become the president of your local club or the treasurer of the marathon runs of your city. Normally, this organization are always looking for motivated people. And there you can progress, you can take responsibility. I would never hire at UEFA someone who just have a programs. I would always check if this person has practical experience and has dedicated time, showed his or her passion to sport in being volunteers in an event. This is really where you learn. I probably learn more in being the president of my street hockey club and my street hockey tournament more than in any education programs that I did, at least when I was at the university. Not that university are not important, but you will also acquire really leadership experience through this volunteers experience. So I hope it was interesting. I hope also we're going to keep in touch. If you are interested basically in keeping a touch with us, in following what we do at the UEFA Academy, there is a webpage on which you can register also to our newsletter. We decided to be on only one social network, on one social media. So we are only on LinkedIn, but we are very active on LinkedIn. So don't hesitate, if it's not already done, to like us there and to follow us there. And I'd like to finish this presentation in provide you with a final, hopefully good news, maybe gift or whatever it is. It's just to speak just for 1 minute about UEFA Academy Online. UEFA Academy Online is a subsection you can access through uefaacademy.com. You will see a button called UEFA Academy Online there. And it's actually a database. It's a big database containing more than 2,000 different videos, recording of some of our programs, recording of different conferences. We have also a lot of documents there with key resource for anyone who is interested in sports management. Of course, there is a lot of contents focusing on football. This is a tool that we give to all our students and graduates to basically provide them with additional information. This is extremely useful for them when they need to prepare for a presentation, for an assignment. This is also useful information just to get additional information on a topic. What we decided to do is to open this platform to everyone, not the full platform. You will get access to half of the content, but still it means 1,000 documents, which might be very important for you during your studies, or very interesting for you also to get additional information. By the way, it might be also interesting for the professors, the teachers teaching in your programs. They can access these documents. This is also our commitment to help the education industry. I need to do a small disclosure here. It's already accessible. You don't have access yet to 1,000 resources because we are retagging all the content, and it will be fully operational by the summer, by the Euro. You will then have access to approximately 1,000 documents on UEFA Academy Online. So this time is really the end of my presentation. I just added here also their direct contact details. I added my own email address. I would say if you have generic questions about the UEFA Academy or on some specific programs, write to academy@uefa.ch, because the right person, the program's owner, will reply your questions. But if you have any questions you would like to discuss privately with me, this is also possible to send me an email. So I hope I was interesting. At least for me, I spoke with passion about this topic. But now the interesting part is starting for me, because I hope you have some questions for me. And I think, Joao, you will manage this.
Hello, Thomas. I actually decided to come here to read the questions for you. First of all, I want to thank you again for doing this. I think it was fantastic. It was a nice way for you to show the commitments that UEFA shows towards education, the importance that UEFA gives towards education. We have a few questions here. It was also, just before I go to them, I think I have a question on my own, because I mean, one of the important things that you showed as well was the difference between the UEFA Academy and the other programs here. You told me about that when I first actually invited you to participate, and you said maybe it's not the same thing. We actually collaborate with many of these programs.
Correct.
So that was great that you show that. However, I have one question that wasn't clear in your presentation to me, because, for instance, you gave that example that you would bring only people that already are working sport or have some sort of career in sport, not people that would have a career somewhere else and would like to transition into sport, like many other programs do. However, I saw one of your slides was talking about what was that career transition program. Are we talking about is that transition from athletes, from professional players into the market? That's what I understood, but it wasn't very clear. So.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Joao. Exactly. I mean, this is a new programs we have for athletes, actually professional athletes. The career transition program is a 1-week program. It's kind of, planting the right seeds in the mind of someone. So this is only for sports professionals who are currently in career and would like to have an orientation, an idea about what would be their ideal job. So what we do is kind of a long, if you want, information session where we present different kind of jobs and different pathway to get this job. So I would say it's kind of even a pre-program. So this is an exception, I would say, in when I was saying our programs are already for people working in the industry. I would say the categories of programs for athletes is a little bit special. And this is part of the commitment of UEFA to give back to the people who gave us so much emotion when they are on the pitch. Here, UEFA is a little bit more active and actually became very active in trying to bring these people in the sport industry while their first football career is over.
Oh yeah, definitely. It makes a lot of sense. I think it was clear to me, but just instead, to avoid confusion, I thought that we should address that again. I'll try to jump to questions here quickly. Lavinia Falese says, hello, Thomas. Do UEFA Academy programs have a practical internship part? So when they do those programs, how do they work? Do they start working somewhere? Is that part of the programs or not really?
No, they don't. And this is actually also something which is important when you consider doing a program, which is probably, again, more relevant if you want to start your career in the job industry. I told you, and this is also why I do this difference. People who join the UEFA Academy normally, I mean, 99.9% of the case, they have already a job in the sport industry, or they have really an interesting background which will enrich our program. So these people are not looking for an internship, right? And actually, we don't want that they leave their organization. They should progress within their organization. So they don't have an internship. Again, the only exception here is the MIP programs for football players who just stopped their career and who will maybe join their first experience thanks to the MIP programs. But actually, if you are looking for entering in the job industry, some programs offer an internship, and I think this is also something you should keep in mind. I was speaking about which programs for which people. If you do not have a job currently and you are open for an internship, this is actually something great if a programs offer an internship as part as a curriculum of the program.
Cool. Thomas, because of time, I'm going to ask just another one. And I don't know if this has much to do with you, because you're not necessarily hiring sort of for other positions there. But there's a question here asking, what's the importance of having a diploma in sports management, let's say postgraduate programs, when UEFA is hiring or looking for a candidate? How maybe helpful that is, how important that is?
I think it become more and more important. You know, since I joined in 2007, there was a few, let's say, graduates of sports management programs. Now there are more programs, so logically also there are many more graduates, but I see that more and more when you want to enter as a relatively new position, I think the importance of having a diploma in sport management increase. Of course, if we're looking to a very senior position, we will usually recruit someone, then the diploma is maybe less important. We will more looking, let's say, the track record of this person within the industry or in similar role. And sometimes we want also to bring people with less experience in football, but really, I mean, a big knowledge into one specific topic to learn from other industry. So I would say the more senior the role, maybe the less the diploma is important. But for a first job at UEFA, definitely, I mean, if you did one of the programs who are taking part at the moment to the iWorkinSport conference, it becomes a very important asset to have in comparison to participants who would not have.
Okay, that was great. Thomas, again, thank you so much for doing this. I think it was super informative. I think everyone enjoyed a lot. I certainly did. And yes, it's great to continue the collaboration that we've had with UEFA since we first launched the iWorkinSport with the recruitment team there, the talent acquisition, and now also being able to work with you and the UEFA Academy. So that's great. Thank you again for doing this.
Thank you, Joao. Thank you, everyone, for joining. You know to reach us if possible, and whatever the position, maybe as a student of one of these programs, when you will visit UEFA, being online or in our office, or maybe in the future, because you will have joined the sport industry, I will be very happy to see you again. So thanks a lot for your trust, Joao. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you.